Hey everybody, welcome to another DIY painting tips video. This video is of a kitchen I did a while ago where the homeowner didn't like how her cabinets matched her floor. She'd really been wanting some white cabinets for a while. So she hired me to come in and turn them white. The countertops, oh, the sweetest dog in the world, by the way. Just so kind, sweet. So I start off by cleaning the floor whenever I go into a new kitchen. I clean everything and then I go around all the edges with my frog tape and kind of edge everything off so that I can get the floor entirely prepped with brown rosin paper. So this is just me going around with my little 1-2-inch mud knife and making sure that everything's nice and snug to the floor and nice and tight so there's nothing showing. So here you can see how I go in around every little bit, the dishwasher and everything. Just make sure it's perfect because any little gap means paint on the floor that you're cleaning later. And that is the last thing that you want. So I'm just taping off the door to decide to get that done. Next is I clean off all the cabinets. And just around the stove, I like to use a little bit of Dawn just to get that grease off. You do have to make sure to really rinse the cabinets afterwards so you don't leave any residue from the soap behind. But around the stoves, the cabinets tend to be greasy and doesn't want the paint to bond or tape or anything like that, so you really have to clean that up good. Here I'm just rolling out the brown rosin paper, getting the floors covered so that they're nice and protected, cutting in around everything and making sure everything is good. This brown rosin paper does great for drips and everything. It's nice and durable. It lasts all week without a problem. If you do get a big spill on it, you do got to pull it up right away and make sure you don't give it time to bleed through and soak through that. And that is my son. He no longer paints with me, but he spent a couple of years painting with me and now he's off doing his own thing, trying to figure his own stuff out. So, frog tape. We do use frog tape on everything. Even after a week, it pulls off the floors really nice. It's great for taping on the walls, on painted trim, on cabinets, on floors. It doesn't leave any of that sticky residue behind. It's all we use and we absolutely love it. Here I'm using the zip wall poles to create a wall for a few cabinets that they wanted painted in their dining room. So I use the zip walls and 12-foot plastic to just seal in my painting area, make sure that no overspray leaves. And you have to be perfect with this. Any little gaps or airflow flowing from your spray area out to the rest of the house means you will dust it, and that is no good. Here is the doorway from the garage into the kitchen. The garage little porch area into the kitchen, or mudroom into the kitchen, whatever you call it. But here I'm just taping up some plastic and I'm going to take a sticky sided zipper, place that right down the middle of this and cut through it, and creates a nice little zipper doorway for getting in and out of the kitchen. Ooh, look at that thing zip. They actually work really good and we love them. So you can have a nice sealed in door and just in and out when you need to. And you can kind of see through there. We jumped forward in time a little bit and we're really starting to get this place prepped off nicely. But okay, here is the drying rack I brought along. This is just a really simple homemade $75 drying rack. So if you're painting your kitchens yourself, this is a wonderful little thing to build. It's just a few 2x4s and some dowels. And this is a pretty good sized kitchen and I was able to fit all the doors onto this drying rack. I do have another video here on my channel. I'll put a link to that here, but you can go watch that and it gives you more detailed instructions on how to build this. But it's very simple, it's portable, a couple of screws, and then slide in the dowels and it's ready to go. And that allows me to take off all the cabinet doors, spray them, and lay them out on that drying rack so that they have a place to dry overnight. Here I'm just prepping off the chandelier. Use a nice wide piece of plastic, pull it down around the bottom and up over the top, and then wrap a little tape around it. You can see how I kind of bag those up. Works really good. because anything you don't prep will get dusted. And here I'm putting up a few more zip walls to block off their living space from the kitchen. It's one of those open kitchens, so you got to make sure to build a few big walls with the plastic. Zip walls are wonderful. If you don't have them, I'd have to check, but they're something like $75, maybe $100 for a pack of 4. But they're absolutely great for any work you're doing, just to wall off your space. Here we are numbering the cabinet hinges. Well, we're lettering them for bottom, middle, top, and then we set them right inside the cabinet. We take them off. That way every hinge goes on exactly where it came off. And this just helps everything go back as good as possible when we're done. This is probably unnecessary, but we just do it. We label everything so that we can save hours of time. We put the number of each door right inside the 35 millimeter hole and cover it with a little piece of tape so that when we're painting we don't lose those numbers. And then we write that same number on a little piece of tape and put it right inside the cabinet. And yeah, that's how we make sure everything goes back where it's supposed to. If you label everything good, it might take 2 hours or so, maybe 3, to put a kitchen back together. If you don't label it, double or triple that number. I have spent 8+ hours putting back a kitchen and just having a nightmare putting doors in the wrong place, trying to figure out where they go. And it definitely saves you a lot of time. That's my 3M handy masker, or 3M masking machine, whatever you call them. Absolutely wonderful little tool. Way to get your plastic put up quickly and efficiently. Great for doing plastic on the inside of cabinets. Great for windows, exterior painting windows, stuff like that. Places where that big box of plastic isn't necessary and you need to be a little bit more precise with your plastic. So I put one piece on where it's going to come out the long way, either whether that's horizontally like this cabinet, or sometimes it's a vertical. And then I line the whole thing with tape, and then I just go around and carefully press that plastic up to the tape I just lined. You can see I keep kind of that back lip of the tape up so that I can reach around and tuck it under. Here's just another little quick shot showing how I put in that plastic. See, this one is, I'm putting it in vertically because it's shorter, a shorter distance from, trying to use the least amount of plastic as possible, if you know what I'm saying. Plastic is costs money, and everywhere you can save money is good. My son taking a break, talking with me refusing to take a break, saying, if you can't work and talk at the same time, then you can't talk. That's the rule I always like to say on our job sites. Here I'm prepping off the dishwasher. I open up the door, prep off that door, same way I do the inside of a cabinet, and then close the door, and that seems to work pretty darn good. You can see sometimes those areas just take a lot of tape, and that's just the way it is. Here is the inside of a cabinet that has kind of sliding, not drawers, but sliding shelves in it. So you have to tuck it behind those brackets, pull the plastic out, and then I've just got a little bit of the bracket exposed, and I just cover that with a little bit of tape. And typically on something like this, I got to go in, do a little touch up with a brush, but that's every job. There's always a little bit of brush touch up that you just have to deal with. Just the way it is. On this one, I did decide to leave the drawers in just because we were limited due to space, and it wasn't practical to take everything out of the home and spray it off site and bring it back, just because it was a long distance to this job. And I thought leaving the drawers in and just prepping them and then going back in and brushing the back sides, it worked. It looked great when it was done. The homeowner didn't have a problem with it. It created a little bit more work for me than I wanted to at the end of the day. I did prep off those rails too, but you can just see how I did the rest of it there. But I kept them closed when I sprayed, so then the back sides around the box just had to be painted when we were done. This is the scuff sand before the primer, where we kind of break that surface a little bit, get it nice and roughed up so that it's ready to accept that primer and really bond. So my son giving it a good sand down. And here's just a quick walkthrough showing all of the prep work. There's the numbers for those cabinets. The drawers are going to be sprayed in place. We're starting to drop all of the doors into the drying rack. And you can see it's just becoming a plastic world. We have to prep off the ceiling just to make sure no overspray gets on the ceiling. Probably could have been a little bit more aggressive. You'll see later on, we actually brought the paper out further on the ceiling. Bounced around a little bit, but you can see all the plastic inside the cabinets here. And the window. They're replacing the black backsplash and the countertops. And they said the countertops would probably be broken up, busted up when they take them out, so don't worry about prepping them off. In hindsight, I probably just would have prepped them off anyway, but I did what the client said, and it is what it is. All right, so end of day one. Day one was prep day. We just spent the entire day getting everything prepped. Day two is prime day. I like to use Smart Prime. It's a hybrid primer. It's an oil or a water encapsulated oil, a hybrid. I like it. It bonds good. It blocks tannins good. It just does everything quite well. I've used it for years now. I use it on almost all my cabinet jobs. I absolutely love it. There's a few others I love. Inselect Sticks is a great one. I like to use my full face mask, pair of gloves, keep the hands clean. And here we are. The table's all prepped off. I thinned my primer down by 20%. So if I've got 60 ounces of primer, I'm going to put in 12 ounces of water, get that all stirred in nicely. And then I use an HVLP sprayer. I use the Titan Cap Spray 115. This has been my go-to HVLP for years. You can see all those layers of paint from hundreds of cabinets on here probably by now. And yeah, it still works like a charm. What's nice is there's only a few pieces that are plastic on here that need to be replaced, like that little hose. And other than that, almost nothing ever gets replaced on this. I've had it for years and years and just replaced that little hose every so often, and the filters on the turbine, which you can see in the lower left corner there. And then once my son I start spraying usually, and once he's ready, we get a nice little system. He feeds me doors, and I spray and spray and spray. Got to protect those lungs. I always shoot a little onto the brown paper, make sure I got nice soft edges you can see here, and that looks really good. Really nice fine atomization, nice thick paint in the middle, and that looks beautiful. Ready to get started, grab my first door, and you can see those little, I don't know what you call them, little triangle things under there. Keep the door off the table when you spray. And shoot the edges, rotate it, shoot the other edges, and I just shoot one side at a time. Shoot it all flat, and that just gives you more room for error. You can spray it on a little thicker. Where if you spray them and they're hanging vertically, you can get runs pretty easy. So if you're not an experienced sprayer, spray them flat, spray them horizontally. Even if you are an experienced sprayer, I've sprayed tons and I still love spraying flat because I can really layer on that paint and get a lot of paint on my doors. So, yep, and then it's just grab one, spray it, put it back, grab another, and repeat the process for a while. We obviously won't show you all the doors, just a couple here so you kind of get an idea of what goes into spraying these doors. It's actually quite a simple process. The actual painting is very easy. It's the prep work. It's all about the prep work. If you don't prep it right, that's where all your problems come from. If you don't sand, if you don't clean, you won't get a good bond. If you don't prep off the floors, everything you forget to prep is usually a cleaning job when you're done, and you're usually kicking yourself in the butt, you know, saying, why didn't I take an extra 10 minutes and prep this off? Now I've got to clean it, repaint it, do something. And you know, every job there's something. There's always something you have to fix. It's just the way it is. My son's actually been helping me since he was about 12, 13 years old. He used to come out into the shop and just haul cabinet doors to me while I sprayed. And He knows the process. He just walks in, knows exactly what to do. I don't have to tell him anything. It's great to have a helper like that. Just an over the shoulder shot so you can see in real time. It's slow. I shoot a couple angles, twist the door. That way I don't have any shadows in my spray. Just nice and slow and even. Get that coat primer on there, get it looking good. Then let it settle and turn into a nice glass-like finish. Here's sped up again, spraying all the boxes now. And I don't know why I do this, but when I'm spraying something big, about halfway, I almost always get bored. I don't know if that's it, or I feel like I'm not getting anywhere, and I switch to the opposite side and work my way to the middle. There is no reason for this whatsoever. I attribute it to boredom or something. Who knows? It's just a habit, and I do it to this day, and I do it on everything that's a big area like that. I just do it. You see me just changing the angle of the tip so that I can get down and shoot at different angles. Shoot a horizontal spray fan. Shoot a vertical spray fan, just for whatever works for what I'm shooting. And I sit and adjust that. And there's a little lever to adjust the siphon tube on the inside too. So if you tilt it at an angle, you're always siphoning from the lowest point in the cup gun. Let's see, do I switch? See that? I just stopped and I switched because I get bored too easily or something. Here's the other side. You don't have to worry about it being perfectly even or anything. Remember, this is just primer right now. So with primer, it's just about getting a good even coat, or not, a good coverage coat on everything, not leaving light spots ideally. And they wanted the inside of this because there's a glass door there, and spraying the insides of cabinets is never fun because the overspray has nowhere to go but back in your face. So if you spray the insides of your cabinets, just know you're gonna have to really work your hair in the shower because it comes right back in your face. Full face mask helps a lot, but it's always in your hair and it's always dusted when you're done. So spraying the drawers in place worked, like I said. If you're limited on space, you can absolutely get away with it. No paint slips behind them. It doesn't make a mess behind them. But is it the most efficient thing in the world? No. If you have the space and can take them off, that's probably going to be better every time. But it definitely works and doesn't hurt the quality at all. And you can see there is a vent cover under there, and I wanted it white. I wanted it to blend in. No point in getting a new one. Might as well just paint it. Oftentimes homeowners do like to put an accent color on their center island. This home, they did not. I just did one this week where we have a nice deep blue on the center island. I did film that one as well, so hopefully that'll be up here in the next week or so, and you can see another kitchen being done. Much smaller kitchen, and it was for a friend, and I only had a couple days to do it, and they had to have access to their kitchen for food and stuff during it, so you'll see a few things I did a little bit different on that job to make sure that it worked for them. So if you like this video, make sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that when the next one goes up, you got another wonderful video to watch. Priming is probably the easiest spraying because once you're spraying the top coat white on white, it's a little bit harder to see what you're doing. But yeah, and priming is the most satisfying, seeing everything change color. Seeing that big drastic change on the primer. I'm sure I'll get plenty of comments about those countertops. I'm sure they could have been saved or something. In hindsight, I wish, wish you would have prepped them no matter what the homeowner said. But I didn't. It is what it is. So I'm sure someone could have saved them or something. I'm sure that was wasteful, and I regret that, and I won't do it again. And there it is. Everything is all primed. You can see all of the prep work that goes into this, all of the priming. It's and that's day 2. You know, it looks like there's a missed spot up there, Ryan. That's okay. I'll see it. I'll see it and get it done. The big open space, that's where the fridge goes, where you can see all those lines in the spray. You know, a little bit of uneven lines and stuff, that's not a big deal. When the 2 more top coats go on, everything will even out and it'll look absolutely wonderful. Yep, there's a miss spot. Always a few of those. I always miss a couple things. I'm sure I found it before I left. All right, day 3. This is where we come in and we sand down that primer, get a nice smooth surface so that the top coat can lay like glass. I also like to do all of my caulking after the primer, because once everything's white, you can see the cracks, gaps, every little thing better. Where on dark wood, golden oak, everything, it can be really hard to see them. Sometimes you don't see every little thing, where after the primer, I feel like I can. So I like to wait till after my primer, do all of my caulking after the primer, and then shoot the top coat. I do use fine 3M sanding sponges after the primer, and then extra fine in between the top coats. The fine is a little too rough for going in between top coats, but it's perfect for the primer because 2 top coats are still going on. Oh, if you look at that ceiling, you can see we got a lot more aggressive on prepping off that ceiling so that we don't get overspray on the ceiling. I've learned that in the past. You get overspray on the ceiling and you're repainting a ceiling for someone. And that is not fun. I use DAP. I get this at Home Depot. They're 40-year. Wonderful stuff. And the caulk gun you see there is a 12-to-1 ratio caulk gun. That means it moves very little for each trigger pull. And I take my time and I try to cut a really nice angle on these. Don't just lop it off straight across. Cut it at an angle and then kind of shape that edge so that it can go in the corners really nice. So I shave a little bit off of each side after I cut it so that it can really get down in those corners and just put the caulk in there perfectly. I still go over it with a wet rag and really smooth it out. Can't really see it there other than my, yeah. So we sanded, now we're gonna vacuum everything. And I do that before the caulking. I don't want to get any dust in the caulk. Not a lot to see, just vacuum everything. There you go, back to the 12-to-1. A regular caulk gun, a cheap metal caulk gun from Home Depot or whatever, is 4-to-1, I believe. And they will make a gigantic mess on these tiny little fine lines. They are great for exteriors when you need a big fat bead of caulk or something. But here you need a very fine little bit. You just want to fill those gaps and cracks, you know, anywhere where 2 pieces of wood butt up against each other. You want to fill that up. And especially where the cabinets meet the wall. And you can see it's a really fine bead. But even if you're not good at caulking it, use your wet rag and smooth it out. No matter what, I always smooth it out. Use that wet rag and make it perfect. Here I'm just caulking the crown. Don't want any gaps in there. Any little crack or gap, once everything's white, will show up as a shadow, a black shadow, and be a contrast on the white, and it'll stand out like a sore thumb. Where on the dark cabinets, it didn't show at all because it didn't contrast against the dark cabinet. So now every little thing must be caulked. If you're painting a dark color, that is not true. You don't have to caulk everything. If I do a black accent on a center island, I don't even worry about it. Same with filling the grain on oak. If you're doing a dark blue, black, anything like that, filling the grain just, it can still help. Looks maybe a little better, but it's not nearly as necessary as filling the grain on a oak cabinets that you plan on painting white. So you can see with that little cut on the caulk gun, it's nice and easy to put in that fine bead. Here is my top coat. You can't even see what I was using. It's Benjamin Moore Advance. Again, I thin it down 20% with water, just regular tap water. It works wonderful. You will read on the can, it says only thin down to 10%. You will not get a fine atomization in almost any HVLP gun at 10%. 20 seems to be the minimum. And I believe they put that 10% on there just to protect themselves. I've been with my Titan reps. I've met with the Sherwin reps. I've met with my Benjamin Moore reps. Nobody sticks to that 10%. A lot of guys go far beyond, so don't freak out. 20% is perfect. And I've been doing this for years and years and years, and I don't get callbacks due to failing paint. That is not an issue. I like to wear earplugs because the sprayer is loud, and I also don't like when I'm spraying all the time and I'm the one holding the spray gun. I don't like fumes getting into my brain. That's a habit I picked up back when I used to shoot oils and lacquers more often. Now I use hybrids that are low VOC, like Advance, which is, I'd have to check, but I think it's 40 grams per liter VOCs, which is pretty low. I might be a little off, but it's under 50, which I believe qualifies it for a low VOC paint, where the oils and lacquers are usually over 400 grams per liter, and they make your eyes burn, and those fumes get into your brain through your ears. That's not something I want to subject my body to, and I just keep the habit because I'm spraying all the time. As you can see, it is harder to see that top coat over a white primer versus dark cabinets. So you have to start spraying a little bit more by feel and make sure you have good light. And sometimes you have to go back and always look at your work, and that'll help get your feel. You see me keep adjusting. That's because I can see how much paint's coming out, what it looks like, and I'll adjust my airflow, my nozzle, the amount of fluid coming out, everything until it feels perfect, and I can just get in a rhythm and know that I'm putting on the right amount of paint. Another thing, I always like to top coat with satin. I recommend to all of my clients to use a satin finish. I don't like semi-gloss. It's too shiny, and anything less than satin is not shiny enough. I find satin. All my clients seem to love the satin finish. Most all the cabinet painters I know, satin. Trust me when I tell you, don't use semi-gloss. Satin is gorgeous for cabinets and furniture. There's a place, I'm sure, for semi-gloss for certain things, but cabinets, satin looks wonderful. You do always have to be careful not to bump your butt. I have put a butt print in the wet cabinets behind me. So always have to be aware of where you are and where your hose is and everything like that. And that wraps up day 3. Got the first top coat on. So day 4, the final coat. Our goal is always to do a set of cabinets in a week. If we can get them done in 4 days, great. 5 days is typically normal. Day 5 is always where we come back, we de-prep, and spend the day doing little touch-ups and assembling the kitchen, everything like that. If I have to do a grain filler, sometimes that can add a day, but I usually just stay later on the first couple days putting the grain filler on and try to keep them all within 5 days. Here we're doing a very light sand and just checking that everything looks good on these doors. And then before the final coat, we clean everything. We vacuum every little bit. We want this to be a dust-free environment. So we definitely clean a lot more than we do before the first coat. The first coat, we clean it up, we vacuum, but second coat, we get the place as clean as possible. Here I am thinning it down 20% again. Stir that up and get all ready to spray. We did skip over, we didn't need more filming of spraying, but here is everything completely done. There's all of our doors sitting out to dry. The final coat is complete. Everything is nice and white and looking beautiful. So you can see that drying rack in action there. Worked wonderfully. Like I said, about $75. There you can kind of see a close-up, that finish. It laid down really nice and smooth. Really happy with how everything turned out on this job. The client absolutely loved it. So yeah, I always tell my clients it's a good time to go test out all of the, yeah, you can see I did miss the top coat where the fridge went, but we went and rolled that later on, which the fridge went in there, no one's ever gonna see it, so it just got rolled with a mini roller. But like I was saying, time for the clients to go try out all the restaurants in the area. Day 5, reassembly and touch-up. One of my son's friends came along. He has a buddy who's come out a few times when it's time to just put doors on and stuff like that. I will take all the help I can get on reassembly day. It's when you feel like you're done, but it still takes 8 hours just to clean up and get out of there. Reassembly is just a lot of tedious work, and you have to look over every little thing. You can see me with a mini roller over there in the corner doing the areas where it's just too hard to get the sprayer in. My son putting the hinges back on the doors. We have to keep our hands washed really good the whole time. Keep nice clean hands or wear gloves. Painting the back sides of those drawers like I told you. It's not the ideal way to do things. There definitely would have been better to just take them off. But it worked, and having some brush strokes on the back side of the drawers was not an issue. Here's just a light spot. You're gonna have light spots. It happens. That's life, and it's just an edge. You have to go in, do a little brush touch up, and hopefully it's just a little spot here and there, and you go in, you look for anything you missed, another light little edge, blend it in. And that's about it for the touch-up. Just going around a few last places here. You can see the back sides there, a little bit better view of what I had to do. And it took about 3 coats to get the back sides of those drawers to look good. And then after all the touch-up on the cabinets is done, it's time to take the brush and go around and touch up all the walls, kind of all above the cabinets where the overspray got on the walls. All of that needs to be repainted now. So go in with the wall paint and cut in around the cabinet there. Brush it in, and then we actually went in with a roller and re-rolled the walls after I cut everything in by hand. So that again took 2 coats. Here's just cutting in between here. If you're good with a brush, cutting it in works great. If you're not good with the brush, frog tape is your friend. Frog tape is wonderful. They had lights on the bottoms of their cabinets. You can see here, a lot of people want the bottoms painted white. Some people don't. We left the bottoms unpainted at their request. So, and there we go. And there is the final product. Looking all beautiful. Sadly, the new countertops are not in, but you can see how nice these cabinet doors turned out. Absolutely glass-like. They just look perfect. And yeah, I was really happy with how this project turned out. It was Benjamin Moore Advance for the top coat and Zinsser Smart Prime for the primer. We used an HVLP sprayer. You can get cheap ones from Wagner. They offer the Flexio 5000, my absolute favorite cheap sprayer. I'll put a link in the description if you made it this far. Speaking of, if you made it this far, please throw a comment. I would love to hear if anyone watched 36 minutes of this cabinet video. That would blow my mind, and I appreciate you so much if you did. You're the people who make taking the extra time to film these and edit these and put them together. So worth it. If you have any questions, leave a question in the comments below.